Hi everyone! Have you ever struggled to find just the right print to finish a project? Like binding on a quilt? Or you want a perfect little pocket to place on a shirt that really adds distinction to the garment and that it feels like it belongs on the garment and you just can't find it? Like a batik and how rich they are versus a more printed looking fabric like polka dots. It's kind of like walking into a fine restaurant in a bathing suit and flip-flops. You know, they have a totally different look about them. So you may have thought it would be really great if I could just dye my own fabric and make my own fabric. And if that's how you feel, today is your lucky day. I'm going to show you how you can make your own fabric, not weave it together, but ink it to match what it is that you're making. So stick around. For those of you who are in my Babbling Brook course, this is the document you'll use to make sure your pieces are all perfect and the right size. And for those of you who are not, if you just want to make your own binding, you know that binding measures 2.5 inches wide. So we'll go ahead and mark your fabric in 2.5 inches increments, but we're not going to cut the fabric until after we ink the fabric. I tore the fabric to make sure that it was on the straight of grain, and now I'm going to go ahead and trim just a smidge off so we have a nice clean edge for that binding. I always crawl with my fingers up the board so that it doesn't slip on me. And before moving the ruler, pull the scrap away. Then you know you have a nice clean edge. And we want to go on the 2.5 mark here. So we got 1, 2.5. And then you just draw. And this is the Frixtion pen, so it actually has an eraser on it that allows you to erase, but you can also use an iron to iron this away. And a really neat thing about using this, when we use the inks, the pen does not go away from moisture. Now when you do binding, you actually are going to fold your binding in half, and what is actually going to show on the top of your quilt is half of that. So this is the part of the fabric that we really want to pay attention to, having it look a certain way. So a good thing to do would be to mark the center of each of the bindings as well. A quick way to do this would be to fold the fabric in half and then to use one of my pressers. Better than an iron, because the iron will actually erase the line that we've drawn. And now you can see the center, and then if we fold on the actual line that we drew as well, cross like this, and just take the presser along the edge of the ruler. Now you have a crease and you know where the other side of the binding is, because we're going to have to ink this side and that side. You want to come up 1.25 inches and 1.25 inches, and then just fold every 1.25 inches. And this quadrant right here, this is 1 binding, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and then 5, and so on. Each one of these divisions is 1.25 inches. So if you fold every 1.25 inches, then you should know where the part of the binding is that will be showing on the outside of your quilt when you're finished inking. Placing your ruler down a little bit jogged over helps to keep the fabric from slipping as you press down. And then you just want to write, like draw an X, that's the line that we're going to be focused on. This is the cut line for the binding, this is the line that we're going to focus on. This is the cut edge of the binding. Cut, and focus on that. So you can do like a circle for the circle with an X. Anything to help you to remember that that is the side that we're going to be seeing on the outside when your binding is finished being inked. Well, for my project it was pretty simple on what colors I should use because it was based on my Babbling Brook, which we've already got the inks out from actually inking it. But if you're going to do the inking for a random fabric that you already own, I suggest making a chart, drawing little squares and placing ink in these squares first without any dilution and then some with water in it, and then see the colors that you have and see which colors complement the fabric that you're using the most. It might be a little overwhelming trying to figure out which of the colors you'd like to have as your binding. So you could actually just ink some fabric strips and then lay it down to see which one you like the most, or lay your bottles down next to it and kind of get an idea of what that would look like if we have green going along and a little bit of brown. I think these colors together might be really nice. The only way to know is to start inking. Now that I've got the fabric all laid out, I'm going to take this board away, and before I began inking, I placed some plastic wrap over my entire table and then laid paper towels down over that. So I have a really nice work area here, so I don't have to worry about the ink getting on the actual table beneath it. And because of that, I can take and I can actually spray the ink onto the fabric, and so this would be a good way to do that. You get little bottles. I like to use my empty water bottles to keep water safely in my sewing room for filling up my iron and using for things like this. Let me go ahead and I'm going to use some of the green, putting it into the bottle, and then you just shake to mix the ink in. It's going to have bubbles in it, and bubbles, if you were trying to do a refined project, could be problematic, but in this case I want it to be kind of subtle, and so I'm not going to worry about the bubbles. I'll just start spraying. It is a very quick process, as you can see. So I want to make sure I'm focusing on the line going down, and I want to leave some areas where there isn't a lot of green. Pick it up and down. This is the right side of my binding when I'm finished, or will be the right side of my binding. I have tested this ink even without washing the fabric first. It stayed through multiple washings, even without heat setting it with an iron. So I feel very confident in using it like this, but if I were making a quilt for a bed, I would probably wash and dry the fabric first, and also iron the fabric to make sure that the ink sets as the manufacturer recommends. But for wall art, you don't really have to worry about it. Definitely prefer the other spray bottle. This one is oozing onto my fingers. So if you're at the store, this one looks really cool, but this one performs better. Make sure you don't have it pointing at your face. You can also just pour ink on in different ways along it. Like that. And then take a paintbrush and pick it up and splatter, splatter,
Remember, we are just trying to make a fabric that complements the babbling brook. By making sure that it has the same colors in it. I think this one would work better if it wasn't diluted so much. Now this color is going to be really strong, so I'm going to try it out on the paper towel first and see what I think about it. Oh, I think that looks nice. And we can spray it on the back as well. We get nice little splatters. It's becoming quite attractive. And if you want, you can actually soak the fabric before, which encourages the ink to bleed out so that you don't end up with thick, blotchy areas of the ink and you don't have to be as skilled to get it to soften or blend out. Make sure that it's got a nice balance going all the way down. Isn't that cool how spreading it out in big blotches caused it to create that kind of pattern? This is a really fun way of making a backing fabric as well as your binding. So now what do you think about that binding for that fabric? I think I need to add a little brown to it to not make it so intense. And so now we focus on, this is the line that's going to show. And so we want to make sure we have some of the brown on there. Going down that. And you can tell I'm not really worried too much about it because the design itself is a very relaxed design. But see how nice you can get the big splatters using a fan brush. If you wanted a particular pattern, you could repeat by tapping down. Now that I've done this, I need to do this on all of the fabric. So this kind of creates a pattern. I decided that I want it to be mostly brown because it'll kind of look more like a picture frame. And I can even do some cross hatching. Light touch, just coming down in an angle, barely touching, and then going the other way. To heat set this, I would actually use an iron, but I'm going to wait until this is dry first because it can get on the iron just as it's gotten on my fingers. Now for the backing of my quilt. I started out by wetting the fabric to begin with. I really want a much subtler look for my backing, but I'm going to go ahead and spray with the teal. And since the fabric is already wet, it blends nicely. But if we go like this and kind of crumple up the fabric and spray it while it's crumpled up, do the same thing with the light green. Now we get a pattern kind of going on. Isn't that neat? You can also take some of your straight pens and kind of lay them down on the fabric. Safety pin's kind of neat too. Some tacks. We'll do more. And then spray over those items. After you've done that, pick them up. And now you have little safety pin marks and straight pin marks on the actual fabric. You could also do the same thing with just about anything. Take some change, some coins, and place them on the fabric. Anywhere you put something as you spray will leave you with a polka dot. So this is where you can get very creative in what you're doing. And I'm only going to use these two colors on the back. But where I have white, because I didn't cover it, I've now added another color. By crumpling it up, we got darker and lighter tones going on. And then, of course, adding these elements to the material. You could bring in leaves from your yard and lay leaves down on top of the fabric and spray over those for a fall scene. I want some more circles. There we go, nice big circle. Another one. See how fun this can be? Now, if I take and place the smaller circle in the middle of that one and spray with the other color and let it span out to the outer area, now we have two circles. Even just lay a paintbrush down, spray over, and how you have feather marks on the fabric. So you can see that it doesn't take an artist's touch to do this. You just have to be brave and just throw stuff on the fabric. If you are artistic, then now's your chance to actually do something, like you could draw some flowers on your fabric. And that's kind of like just a U, repeating a U, and then we can add a little white to the middle. Now we have a flower. And repeat that, and there's a very light amount of ink that I'm using here. Create another flower. And this is your practice because you're using this as a backing, so you don't have to worry about it unless you're going to be showing it off to other people. Add some more white. Now what I'm doing in this is I have the ink not diluted, so it's coming out and it's like thicker, and you can do little polka dots. And because the fabric is wet or damp, the ink will bleed just a little bit, but see how nice that looks? So I'm just going to do some of these to add a little bit of the appearance that this is a design. Now if you're good at following a trajectory, you could do an actual line in concession to create a swirl. Adding water to your brush, what causes it to kind of blend out and flare out. So we'll do another flower, and you can see I'm not really trying to keep the pattern looking at all uniformed. These petals here are not even there, so some visible, some not, and you've created a very rich and vibrant looking fabric that looks as though it was actually printed. If you're going to make something like a garment, you could actually start from the bottom and do some really nice design elements on the bottom of it, and then fade it out to the top and make a shirt with that floral design on the base of the blouse, and have it just blend out to a soft tie-dye looking top. For those of you who are better at art, I'm sure that you're getting the idea about how fun this could be and how much easier it is to do than using dyes. Those dyes you kind of submerge. Now, I'm not criticizing dyeing. It has some very neat elements to it, and you can actually use some of those techniques while using inks as well. Like wrapping rubber bands on different sections, putting salt down. Also, it does the same thing, kind of the same thing that's done in watercolors if you're a watercolor artist. So you can lay blocks of salt down and pour it over it, and it kind of leaches out and gives you a really neat look. Also, ice will give you the same kind of blurry look to it, and kind of crystallizes. It's very neat. So now I got some of the green, and I'm gonna make this right here into a leaf because it felt like it was a leaf to me. So there we go. And remember, this fabric is wet, so it doesn't need you to do a lot of wetting on the ink itself. And here's another leaf, and now I'm not going to finish that leaf. I think it needs. So here I have a bowl, and I'm just spraying the rim of the bowl. Let's see what happens here. Take the bowl now and flip it over. And spin it a little bit. Now we have what looks like somebody left their glass there, but if you repeat that, you're going to get a really unique pattern. So I think you get the idea. Just about everything in your sewing room, in your yard, in your kitchen, you could lay spoons and kitchen utensils out and spray around them and create a kitchen themed fabric. As I mentioned before, fall leaves, lay them out, spray, take them off, lay again and spray, and use different colors to create a camouflaged appearance for fall. And then of course these inks also come in metallic, so you could create a bridal themed fabric. And for those of you thinking this could possibly be really fun to do for children, it is. They really can't do any damage to themselves using this, and they can go ahead and trace their favorite design using the Caterpillar Lightbox and trace their favorite cartoon characters, or you can create the perfect gift, as I did this last Christmas for these two young men that you see here in this video clip. Open! I made these for you. I painted those and then
Liam, let me see.
Look at the front. She painted it herself.
Claire made that for you.
See, Brandon?
Oh, that's your pillow for your new bedroom.
Awesome.
What do you think? And it says your name on it too. See if you can find your names. Look for your name. Put it down. Sit down on the ground with it. See if you can find your name. Did you find your name? That's my name because I painted it. Now look for your name. Your name is really big. It's kind of hard to miss your name.
Oh, right here. Mine?
Yeah, it is. Down by your thumb.
Look harder.
L-I-A-N.
Where is it?
You've never seen your name as art before, huh?
Right?
There it is.
You guys like it?
Yes, I
Yeah.
It was such a tender moment, and they both are still enjoying those pillowcases so much.
Ah. You're not supposed to spray it on your face. Oh, so embarrassing. Can you see the ink on my face? Ah. Oh my. Use with care. Don't use like Claire. I hope that you enjoyed this video, that I've inspired you to think a little bit outside the box, that it's a real solution for you like it is for me. If you like this video, please go ahead and hit that like button, and if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I sure hope you'll do so today. If you do, make sure you also hit the bell. If you hit the bell, you'll be sent a notification when I upload my next video, and I plan on uploading another one very soon. Thanks for watching this video, and know that it will be inside of Create with Claire Rowley, my new school. If you've yet to join Create with Claire Rowley, go to create.clairerowley.com, and I will see you in the classroom. Bye!
If you're interested in the inks, you will find them at creativefeet.com. I have actually sets that include paintbrushes, and so if you're going to take the Babbling Brook class and know that I will have other inking classes, I'm going to do some very basic inking classes that you will find inside of my school. So if you have yet to visit create.clairerowley.com, be sure to do so today. It is my personal online community, similar to Facebook, but none of the politics, and it's all just what we're doing here. The inks are very affordable. I tested a whole bunch of different brands of inks, and this was the one that performed the best, was the most forgiving. I was able to just not actually do any fabric preparation first, and I didn't even iron or heat set, and I tested, washed 3 or 4 times, and the fabric never changed color. So you can be really confident in knowing that these are the best inks to use for this process. And just to be sure, go ahead and heat set your fabric and then throw it in the dryer before you actually make it into your project, if you're going to actually be washing what it is that you're making with it. I have not tested this on synthetic fibers, so that is something that I plan on doing for those of you who are going to make garments and want to maybe play around with using this on different types of fabrics like chiffon and rayon and polyester. If you want to be kept up to date on all of my little science experiments, go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. And if you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button, share it with your friends, and I will see you in the classroom. Bye!